OCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Nice looking Monday out there. Phil Kerpen is on the phone. He has written an op-ed piece that I want you to hear about, and let's hear about it ourselves. It's called The Fake Democratic Healthcare Debate. All right, I just stirred up something, didn't I, Robin, with that?
Yes, you did.
Phil is a writer and the president of American Commitment, dedicated to restoring and protecting the American commitment to free markets, economic growth, constitutionally limited government, property rights, and individual freedom. The website, which I love, is called AmericanCommitment.org. AmericanCommitment.org. The op-ed piece is, well, I have it, but I don't want to read it to you. I'd rather, maybe we'll give you a link to it or something. Let's say good morning. Phil Kerpen, good morning, sir. It's an honor to have you on our show.
Oh, good morning. Great to be with you.
Where are you right now?
I am in the heart of evil, Washington, D.C., where it's about 100 degrees, but I'm inside in nice air conditioning, so I'm okay.
So everything I read, I agree with, and that makes my job weird because I like to disagree. It's a stronger conversation. So,
all right, well, I'll try to say something so wildly wrong that you'll have no choice to disagree.
Well, if I actually disagree with something you say, I'll let you know. But there's probably a point in this conversation where I'm going to play devil's advocate just for the sake of it, okay? Just for the sake of getting, at least trying to get the other side. But I didn't want you to think I disagreed. But tell us what was the op-ed piece basically saying?
Well, I was really struck during the first Democratic debate, and we've seen a lot more of this since in the last couple of weeks, especially from Joe Biden. But I was really struck by the sort of bitter way the Democratic candidates were apparently disagreeing with each other about health care, and in particular the way Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren want to ban all private insurance and force everyone into a government plan. And Joe Biden's kind of attacking them for that and saying, no, we need to build on Obamacare. And the media is sort of hyping it as if there's this big difference between them. By the way, Kamala Harris changes sides every other day. So she flipped. It's amazing. She's done it like 6 times. Flip back and forth on this. But I was really struck by, the extent to which this is portrayed and covered as this deep, fundamental disagreement, when if you actually look at what they're saying, really all they disagree about is how quickly to ban private insurance and force everyone into a government plan, because the Joe Biden plan is really just a slow-motion way to get to the same place he's attacking Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren for us wanting to go. And what I mean by that is he says, I don't want to ban private insurance and force everyone into a government plan. Instead, I want to create a universal government plan, whether it's called a public option or a Medicare buy-in, depends kind of on the day. But he says, I want to make everyone eligible for a government plan, and then they can choose to keep their private plan or go into the government plan if they want to, but I'm not going to force anyone. Except if you look at every single instance we've ever seen in which you have private competing with government, Democrats always want to ban private. That's happening in Medicare right now. They're trying to ban Medicare Advantage. And if you look at the guy who came up with the idea of having a public option, a government health care plan that would compete with the private sector, is a Yale professor named Jacob Hacker. And he said the whole point of it was over time to move everyone into the government plan and get rid of the private insurance. And if you think about it, that makes sense, because if government runs its own plan, while it also taxes and regulates its competitors, and of course it's got the ability to dictate prices to hospitals and doctors, which private plans cannot do, it's not really going to be an honest competition. It's going to be a rigged competition that eventually ends with everyone in the government plan. And so the Biden plan, which he acts like is so different from what Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders want to do, I call this whole thing a fake debate, because he ends up in the exact same place. He ends up with everyone in a government plan, whether they like it or not. He just sort of gets there a little bit in slow motion. And one of the things that was really striking to me about that first Democratic debate is, this has always been kind of this argument. We've had to sort of point this out. Going back to the Obamacare, one of the reasons the government plan, the public option, was not included is I think we did a pretty good job of explaining this to everyone, to the public. And, there were enough Democrats who were skittish about it that they ended up not including it. But it was always a thing where Democrats said, that's not the plan. We're not trying to get everyone into a government. They denied it. Well, Biden might still deny it, but a lot of the other people on the stage didn't. And in particular, I think Kirsten Gillibrand and Pete Buttigieg both said on the stage, hey, we're not actually disagreeing here because the public option is a transition to get us to the single payer, everyone in the same government plan. And so I think this whole health debate, which is being covered as this huge, deep division between the Democratic candidates, is kind of fake in that they all want to go in the same place. They all want everyone to end up in a government plan. With no choice, with politicians and bureaucrats making the healthcare choices. The only disagreement, such as it is how fast they want to get there, whether they want to go immediately tomorrow like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, or whether they want to do it a little bit more gradually like Joe Biden.
Obamacare is a government plan also. This is not a disagreement. I'm sure you see it this way.
Yeah, well, it's a sort of notionally private plan, but it's so heavily regulated and controlled by government that they're really calling the shots. So I would agree with you on that.
And a lot of the things that you hear from people who identify themselves as socialists or democratic socialists, as Bernie Sanders calls himself, are basically saying, what they're basically saying is, we're going to give you these things, and what that translates to is we're going to make the taxpayers pay for these things. That's what it translates to, whether it's free college or free health insurance or whatever. And right now, if you're getting subsidized by the government for your Obamacare health care, you are getting taxpayer-paid health care. I mean, it's the same thing. Plus, the private insurance companies that sign up for this are regulated heavily by the government. So it is kind of a government plan.
That's true. That's true. I would say, especially for the exchange plans, which the whole benefit design was basically designed by bureaucrats at HHS under Obamacare. It's a standardized sort of government-defined benefit. So the competition between the plans is basically a competition over provider networks and sort of which insurance company bureaucracy you want to deal with. But the benefit packages are basically standardized. They're set by government. And so we've already taken a step down this path. Let's not. No, let's not deny that reality. I mean, Democrats took a huge step towards where they want us to be with Obamacare, but now here we are 10 years later, and here's the remarkable thing, Larry. Here we are, 10 years later, and they're basically admitting, hey, that didn't work. Our plan totally failed, but trust us, we're going to fix it with even more government control.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and this is I kind of warned you I was going to do devil's advocate. This is probably the weakest devil's advocate position I can come up with.
Yeah,
but it's the same thing we heard during the Obamacare debates, it's this, and there are people right now who can't afford health care even with Obamacare. So how does any of this fix that? When in the past it was fixed simply by allowing the hospitals to have to recoup in some other way.
Yeah, well, the Bernie Sanders plan, which is kind of the ultimate goal, I think, of all the Democrats, moves all the payment for all the health care in the country to the government, to taxpayers. And so effectively it would be sort of like a universal Medicaid system. Anyone would go in, you wouldn't pay anything out of pocket, you'd use whatever medical services you wanted, and then taxpayers would pick up the tab. Of course, when you have that kind of system, you end up having very long waiting lists, and there's really sort of no way to control access to care other than waiting lists and rationing of care, and it's very hard to see specialists, and so the quality of healthcare in that kind of system is much less than what we have now. And but the other factor here, which is why the other thing that was so shocking at that Democratic debate, is they also said they want open borders and they want the universal government healthcare system to be provided to illegal immigrants as well.
Right.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so you think about this for a second, the quality of care in this kind of system is going to be less than what most Americans have now. So it would be a step down for most Americans, almost certainly, but it would be a huge step up for most people in the world, and especially in third world countries where they might have little or no access to modern medicine at all. And so if you start telling them, hey, you're going to get access to American health care on a level playing field with the Americans who are paying for it. All you need to do is walk across this border that we're not enforcing. I mean, you can imagine how even these cost estimates we've been seeing about, 30 or 40 trillion dollars, those are going to be way low because you have all these people coming to consume all kinds of medical care, because it's on offer.
What is the answer to the question that, I guess, what would their answer be, not necessarily yours, but what do you think they would say, Bernie Sanders, for example, if it's all completely controlled by the government? Does the government also control the wages that the doctors earn, or the expense, the cost of pharmaceuticals, or the cost of procedures, and doesn't that change a lot of people's minds about going into the medical field in the first place?
The answer is yes. The Bernie Sanders plan has price controls for every aspect of the medical system, and in particular, very aggressive price controls for pharmaceuticals. And that is something actually members of both parties have been talking about for a long time, because the political upside, obviously, of being able to say, hey, we force down pharmaceutical prices, but that's a very dangerous path to go down, because in a world where it costs over $2 billion to bring a new drug to market because of the R&D costs, if you start saying, well, there's not going to be much of a return on that because you're not going to be able to charge market prices, you're going to get a lot less research and development, a lot less cures, and so you could really end up harming innovation and the incentive to find cures for diseases in that way. And similarly, price controls on providers, on doctors and hospitals, will have precisely the effect that you just noted. Doctors will, to the extent they can, drop out of the nationalized system and do direct pay care or concierge care, that kind of thing. I suspect Bernie would then ban that and require everyone practicing medicine to participate in the government system. But then you're going to get a lot of retirements and a lot of people choosing another line of work in the first place. And so you get a lot of you're going to get a lot of supply shortages as a consequence of price controls, which is what always happens with price controls.
And what people like that, Bernie Sanders and other people don't tell you, is that so many people always in the United States say, well, Canada is great. It's going to be just like Canada. I have family members that live in Canada, and if a person is scheduled for an operation at a certain time on a certain day, and if the operations before that person takes longer than expected, they tell the people, no, we're not doing any more operations today. You have to reschedule, and things of that nature. And, the American public is just not told that.
They have very lengthy waiting lists for a lot of procedures in Canada, which is why people who have the means, who are able to pay frequently, come to the United States and pay out of pocket, even though they're notionally covered by their provincial systems. They don't want to wait as long as it'll take to get in to see the doctors there. And so it's an interesting situation because the quality of the providers in Canada, the doctors and the hospitals, the actual medical facilities, are pretty high, pretty comparable to the United States, but they have this endemic problem with waiting lists. They have an insufficient supply of those providers, in large part because of the government controls they have.
We've had a discussion on this show more than once about the inventions inventions here in America, the automobile, the combustion engine, and I might have some of this wrong, but the airplane. A lot of inventions happened here. The point of the light bulb, the phonograph, all that. So why did it happen here? And we discussed, it was because we had freedom. Was it because we had necessity, or was it because there was something called a patent? In other words, you could actually make money if you had an idea. You in your op-ed piece, a really important sentence is they want a system that disincentivizes research and development and the discovery of new cures. I mean, that's an important sentence that you wrote in there. If we don't have an incentive for scientists to figure out a cure for fill in the blank, oh my gosh, you're making a super strong point just with that one line.
It's, I think that's probably the single most important feature of a well-functioning healthcare system is, do you have the right incentives in place to find new cures, to actually cure diseases so that people can live happier, healthier, longer lives? And, the rest of the world is largely free riding on our medical innovation. One of the reasons they're able to spend so much less on healthcare in all these other countries is we're sort of covering the cost of R&D for most of the new cures, most of the new medical devices, most of the new pharmaceuticals. We're covering that in the United States, and it's easy to say, hey, that's extremely unfair. We should pay the same prices as the rest of the world, and kind of I agree with that. The problem is that if you can't get to that by having their prices go up a little and meeting ours in the middle, then you're going to undermine that incentive, and we're all going to be a lot worse off. So that's particularly in the pharmaceutical context. I think that's one of the most important things the Trump administration is doing, is really trying to hardball negotiate with the other rich countries to say, hey, we don't want to pay higher drug prices than you do, but you've got to let yours rise a little bit to meet ours in the middle, because we also don't want to undermine the incentives for R&D and the development of new cures.
But then it also seems like the government can be taking liberties in actually deciding who gets what treatment and who doesn't. We saw that tragic story of that little child in England a couple of years ago, where the parents wanted to take that child to the United States to get medical care, and the government in England refused them to transport that child, and eventually the child died.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of heartbreaking stories like this, particularly in the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom, by the way, has the most sort of draconian form of government healthcare, single-payer healthcare. All of the doctors and hospitals are actually employees of the government under the British system, which is unlike the Canadian system, where they're sort of private, but they bill the government like the only insurance company. And I think it's a very good point that when we sort of give up and say, hey, we've given up on private insurance, we've given up on other arrangements, we're going to put government in charge of all of it, which so many countries have done, that literally entrusts life and death decisions to politicians and bureaucrats, who are the last people who should be making them, in my judgment. They should be made by individuals themselves, or if those individuals are no longer competent, then by their parents or their next of kin or what have you. And there seems to be, there's some horror stories in the U.S. too. I'm not going to say there aren't, but there seem to be a lot more instances of really outrageous things happening in the medical systems of countries that are under the control of politicians and bureaucrats, which is another reason to be very wary of going down this path that all the Democrats want to seem to go down.
It's amazing to me that we have people in Congress who are so uninformed and just haven't studied any of this at all, and yet we have guys like you who are making so much sense that they're not even tapping into you or your knowledge. The website, just go to the website, and I think you'll see a lot of stuff. I wanted to expand our conversation a little bit to the website, because I love your website. Never heard of it before, and I'm a new fan. It's AmericanCommitment.org. And you cover so many different things. How large of an organization does the website represent?
Well, we're a pretty small group in terms of staff. We're basically three full-time people, but we've got pretty strong email list is kind of the core of what we do. We've got about 100,000 people on our email list, and if you do any of the action items on the website, that'll also get you on our email list, and you'll start getting our updates. But what we do that I think is a little bit different from a lot of the other groups out there is we don't do original research. We're not writing 20 and 30-page research papers. Everything is geared towards figuring out which issues really are on the margin in Washington, could go either way, could go in the smaller government direction, could go in the bigger government direction. Then we try to get people the facts and the information in an easy-to-understand form, so 200-word action alert email, 600-word columns, everything short, direct, and to the point, to make it easy for people to be more active, engaged citizens. So we've got lots of letter-writing campaigns in our Action Center into Congress or into the administration or into particular regulatory agencies, and the whole idea is to try to make it easier for people to get involved on economic issues that are on the margin, that could go either way, and to affect the outcome in a more free market direction. And so that's kind of the whole mission. Everything is kind of right there on the website. As I said, the Action Center is where you can see the issues that we're calling for action on, and if any of them are attractive or something you want to weigh in on, just click. We always have a model letter already written that you can send off as is, or you can edit it however you want, and we always guarantee delivery. So we're not just trying to collect names. When we ask you to take an action, we make sure that letter gets where it's supposed to get. If the email forms are down, we'll print them out and fax them, but we make sure 100% of the time, if you do a letter through us, it gets where it's supposed to go. And it's interesting because a lot of times we hear from people, hey, I got a letter back from my congressman when I went through your site, which I never do on the other sites when I fill out letters. And I said, well, that's because we make sure it gets delivered. We never are just collecting names for their own sake. But everything's there on the website, as I said. And if you do any of the action items on the web page, that will also get you on our email list, and you'll get updates from us from time to time when there's another issue
and
you can do something about.
You will believe in the Constitution.
Absolutely, yeah. That's central to everything we're doing is sort of trying to get government limited to its proper constitutional size, which rules out an awful lot of what's happening now.
I think one of the reasons so many people want to live here and have wanted to live here over the decades is because of the free market. And I mean, it gives you an opportunity to open up a mom and pop store and live in a nice house, and that's something they don't have in the country they come from. Phil, I love what you're doing. Thank you for doing this. One of the mind-boggling news pieces in the past year, I guess, I don't know when the Green New Deal was first announced, but we read the Green New Deal on the air, and we were like, nobody's going to go along with this. This is outlandish, and yet it seems like they're all going along with it. How is that possible?
Guaranteed income for people unable or unwilling to work.
Yeah.
Is the Green New Deal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How do they do that? It's like how the one question I wish somebody would ask him is, well, what kind of rules do you want for the border? You don't. I mean, tell me what you want.
They want none.
They want none.
They want zero border enforcement, total decriminalization of illegal entry. They want free health care for illegal immigrants.
Yeah,
and I'm sure if you could pin them down, AOC and the others would tell you that their guaranteed income for people unable or unwilling to work would also apply to illegals.
I know, it is crazy. I just don't understand how. Where are they thinking? Well, anyway, for the thinking people, here's another good website. Let's be part of this one. It is hold on, AmericanCommitment.org. I just want to make sure I had it right.
Yes, .com works also if you forget the .org. Either one.
Okay.
And one quick question from me: what happens to all of the employees of the private insurance companies if we get rid of all of them and just go to government?
That's a really good question. Either they would be laid off, or potentially they could become some kind of government contractor, depending on how they structure the thing. When the government took over student lending about 10 years ago, they actually put that in the same bill with Obamacare. A lot of people forget that. Everyone thought that kind of like all of Sally Mae and all these people were going to be put out of work, but they ended up getting big government contracts. And so sometimes the big companies figure out a way to get taken care of even while government grows bigger. So I don't want to say for sure they'd all be put out of work. They might somehow be put on the government payroll, but certainly their current jobs would become obsolete.
Phil, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for taking time to speak to us today. Keep up the good work, and everybody else go to the website, AmericanCommitment.org or .com. American Commitment. That's what it's about. Can't believe somebody else didn't already have that one.
Yeah.
It's
a good name, right?
That's pretty good. Thank you, Phil. Good stuff.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. We'll be right back.
Attention passengers for Flight 1370. The plane has been delayed at its departure point and will be at least 2 hours late. We apologize for any inconvenience.
Are you serious? It took us over an hour to get here, 2 hours going through security and getting our tickets, and now we have to wait another 2 hours.
Yeah, it's beautiful here, but we're inside this overcrowded airport all day because the plane is stuck in bad weather.
This is the last time we ever do this. When we get back, we're going to Ocala Aviation and getting our pilot's license.
Yeah, we've been talking about that long enough. It's about time we did it. Then we could just fly ourselves and never have to deal with this mess again.
Right. No long lines, no full body groping security, no baggage checks.
Not to mention never losing your luggage. Remind me again why we haven't done that?
Well, we're idiots.
Oh, right.
Attention all passengers for Flight 1370. It looks like the plane is going to be delayed a little bit longer. The airline has lost the pilot's luggage. Isn't it time you got your pilot's license? Call Ocala Aviation today. 352-861-7484. That's 352-861-7484. Hey, you've earned it. Call today.
Hello everyone, This is Josh Allen, licensed real estate agent and your co-host of This Week in Real Estate. And I want to help you realize the dream of homeownership or maximize profitability with the sale of your current home. So be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10:05 a.m. And be sure to check out our live stream on YouTube at WOCA The Source.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
With a graduate degree in management and leadership from Webster University, there'll never be a better time for you to explore what's next in your career. Classes are scheduled so you can continue your normal workday routine, and the accelerated program means a new term starts about every 10 weeks. If you're looking to gain a broad general management and leadership perspective, then Webster University's Management and Leadership degree program is the right one for you. It's all a part of what's next at Webster University.
Go to webster.edu/manage, accredited by ACBSP.
Chris Foster. Iran's government announces it's broken up a spy ring, arresting 17 Iranians accused of spying for the United States.
I understand that the Iranian regime has a long history of lying.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Fox and Friends.
I would take with a significant grain of salt any Iranian assertion about actions that they've taken.
An Iranian official says the accused spies worked at military or nuclear sites and that some of them are sentenced to death. India has launched an unmanned spacecraft to the far side of the moon.
India hoping to become only the fourth nation to complete a soft landing on the moon's surface before dispatching a rover near the unexplored South Pole. India's Prime Minister has big plans for space, aiming to send humans up by 2022.
Fox's Simon Owen. Voting wraps up today for Great Britain's next Prime Minister, with Boris Johnson considered the favorite over Jeremy Hunt. A winner is to be announced tomorrow. This is Fox News.
Pros do it right by choosing trusted brands like Zinsser and Little Giant. Lowe's is here to help by stocking those brands at savings you can count on every day. For over 150 years, Zinsser has been the problem solver professionals trust to make the job easier. Pick up a gallon of Zinsser Bullseye 2 Primer Plus Sealer today for as low as $17.08. And we now offer the Little Giant King Combo Ladder, the world's first step, extension, and leaning ladder for only $159. For your next job, and every job after, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. U.S. only.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 41, 31, 13. We took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted. I realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
Here is your 1-minute news brief. A lightning strike yesterday at Clearwater Beach has left 8 people hurt, one of them critically. 2 juveniles remained at large after authorities say they attacked staff members to escape a juvenile detention center in Jacksonville. A Florida sheriff's deputy died after his patrol car crashed into a pickup truck as he responded to a domestic violence call in Deerfield Beach. A 31-year-old Bellevue man has been arrested after neighbors complained he was showering naked using a garden hose behind his mobile home. Some prepackaged egg salad, tuna salad, and Thai lobster salad sold at Target and the Fresh Market are being recalled because they could contain the bacteria that causes listeria. There was a heavy police presence Saturday night at Universal Studios Orlando, but operations were back to normal by about 10 p.m. And persistence paid off for a retired Tennessee banker who won the weekend's Hemingway Lookalike contest in Key West. It was 68-year-old Joe Maxey's 8th try. And that is your news brief from The Source.
On this Monday, we'll see a mix of sun and clouds. It can be a thunderstorm around during the course of the afternoon and evening hours, especially inland. A high 89 at the coast, 93 inland. And Monday nights will turn out partly cloudy, though 71 inland, 76 at the coast. For Tuesday, a mix of sun and clouds, but with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm around the area, high 89 at the coast, 93 inland. And for Wednesday, times of sun and clouds with a shower and thunderstorm or two, especially in the afternoon, high 86 to 90. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
AccuSleep offers a safe and effective medical option for those who suffer from sleep disorders of all kinds. AccuSleep makes restoring healthy sleep patterns possible. No medication, no surgery, just good sound sleep. Mend your sleep so you can stop counting sheep. Experience restorative sleep at AccuSleep, the acupuncture sleep clinic in Ocala by calling 352-615-5566.
Ocala Magazine is the city magazine distributed throughout Ocala, Marion County, and the villages, providing award-winning coverage of important issues for almost 40 years. Hi, I'm Philip Glassman, publisher of Ocala Magazine. Ocala Magazine offers a platform for branding opportunities for your business or events while covering the latest in local lifestyle throughout print, digital, and social media. Listen every Friday at 10 a.m. on